Welcome to the fourth episode of the Santiago Bros podcast. Today we have Jack Garcia. How you doing, Jack?
Right.
So I want to hear your story of your experiences in the military. Let's start off with what branch did you serve in?
I was in the Army. I started in the National Guard back in 2013. Yeah, 2013. That wasn't the plan originally. Originally, I was going to do active, but I was on the fence. Like I mentioned, I don't like taking orders. I like giving the orders, and
Right.
when you go in, that's not the case unless you're an officer. And since I didn't have a degree, I was like, let me do National Guard, do it part-time, feel it out, maybe get my degree at the same time because they pay for it. And if I really like this, I can go in and make the calls.
Right.
So started in the National Guard for the Army, and, life took over, and I winded up just staying in for 6 years. And I didn't really become an officer for, various different reasons and stuff.
Yeah. So let's get into those reasons. You were in there for 6 years. So what made you not recommit? And was it a hard decision?
It wasn't a hard decision. I think the biggest thing that kind of pushed me away from re-enlisting, I want to find a good way to put this. It's almost like when people get that rank, when they get that power, it changes them. And they kind of turn into, to put it lightly, nasty people. They
Right.
let the power go to their head. It changes who they are. Everything became a dog and pony show where it's like, oh, what am I doing to impress the person above me? And the biggest thing that you'll hear from, especially Army guys, is how is the big green weenie gonna screw me over this week? How is Big Army gonna screw me over? Are they gonna give me less food? Are they gonna have me do extra hours for no reason? Are we gonna do dumb repetitive stuff over and over again? And after a certain amount of time of that, and after watching and realizing just how dysfunctional the leadership was, I was like, you know what? I'm good. If I want to re-enlist again, I'll do it as an officer because I want to call the shots, because I can see that there's a lot of stupid stuff that we were doing that we never had to do. And that led to people getting hurt or people not wanting to be in anymore. And I was like, I don't want to be a part of this either. I had so many of my friends leave because of this stuff. And it's like, after a while, it was just me in the unit. It
Right.
used to be me and friends.
Right.
And as time passed, because of the inadequate leadership, it was just me. And I was like, I hate this. It's like I'm by myself, even though I'm surrounded by people. And then I hated the leadership above me. I was like, this isn't worth it.
Right. So can you move from where you are in your situation to move to a different situation so you're not as, oppressed?
There's a few ways. It's like, if you're in the military and you don't like how things are going, you can transfer to a different unit, a different company, a different battalion, brigade, whatever. It takes a long time, though, especially if that unit or whatever you're dealing with is itching for guys because they're low on manpower. They're going to say, okay, we'll put the paperwork in, we'll put this in, we'll put that in, we'll help you get to where you want to go. And then a few months pass and you're still in the same place. And it's just like, I don't want to deal with this. Like, this is ridiculous.
So what did you deal with that made you feel like leadership wasn't adequate?
So when I first joined, oh my God, I had the best first sergeant. I had the best company commander. They were amazing. They did everything to support their guys. if we were suffering and struggling in the field because the work was too much and it wasn't getting done, they would do whatever they could to keep morale high or to prevent us from getting injured. But you only keep a first sergeant and company commander for a certain amount of time. Right. After a while, they get switched out with someone new. That new person I had for the remainder, basically, of my military career. And he was a company man.
Right.
He only cared about hitting numbers. He only cared about getting stuff done that makes his higher-ups look at him more fondly. And he didn't care about us. He didn't sleep in the field with us. He didn't experience what he experienced. He just said, here's a list of stuff you need to do. I don't care what you have to do to get it done. Just get it done. And then would leave. He would go in his truck and he would leave, and he wouldn't even see us majority of the time for the whole drill or for the whole training exercise or for the whole whatever. And I was just like, this guy's not feeling the vibe of what you're supposed to feel. Like, this is a little ridiculous. You know, the best leaderships I've ever had in my life are the people that lead from the front, not crack the whip from behind.
Right.
And that's what happened. We had that shift. And I was like, and you could see it. You could see it in everyone's eyes. The morale was low. No one wanted to do this because we saw that our commander didn't care about our conditions, didn't care about anything. We had a training exercise where we were getting little to no food and we were sleeping outside, but we slept in an area where it constantly kept getting flooded. So we were sleeping in water. We had all wet clothes. Nothing was dry. We winded up getting, like, I had a friend that got trench foot. Like, trench foot's not a thing that should be around anymore, but we had guys getting that because of the conditions that we were put into, because our CO and first sergeant were just like, yeah, go get it done. And then they go sit in a nice cozy tent. They weren't in it with us, so they weren't seeing what we were experiencing, and they were just like, yeah, they're fine.
So in those experiences, that person getting trench foot, what led up to that? How was your experience drastically different from the beginning towards the end? What happened in between? You know, if you can explain that to us, or for people who don't really know what the military life is like.
So in the beginning, since our first sergeant and CO were sleeping out in the field with us, they were doing what we did, they experienced firsthand when something was too much or too little. So it's typical for someone that's like an infantryman in the Army, no matter whether it's National Guard or active or whatever, you do all the same training. So the typical training exercises are you go out into the field, you run a few missions during the day. It's like a mile or two walk to a location, you clear the objective, and then you walk back, you know. And when you're walking, you got a helmet on, you got your plate carrier on, you got your ammunition. It's called a full battle rattle, so it's 7 magazines with 30 rounds of ammo. It gets pretty heavy. You have to carry water on you, a Camelback or a canteen or something. That's more weight on you. And then even sometimes they would make us carry a backpack with more equipment inside of it, whether it's, you know, signaling panels or pyro or extra mags, and you would keep that on your back. That's all weight. That's all weight you got to walk miles with. And it's not like we're walking on the pavement or on the road. We're walking through brush. I remember one time I was walking through thickets for like half a mile, and it was like literally you were just getting stuck in the thickets, and I would have to like use my rifle to clear out the thickets in front of me because I literally couldn't walk forward. And most of the time I was the point man, so I was literally the guy all the way up in front telling us where to go, clearing
it for most people.
Exactly. And so I dealt with all of the, you know, the walking in strange terrain, the thickets, the swamps, the mud. And it's like you're wearing all that gear, you get tired.
Right.
My first sergeant saw that, and he'd be like, you guys are beat up, you guys are run down, you're not running at 100%. I don't think we should do another mission today. So that would save a lot of people from getting hurt, especially
Right.
because he's seeing it firsthand. He's reacting to what he sees. But when you have a CO that's not with us, he doesn't see this stuff firsthand. He thinks we're fine. He sends us out on a second mission, third mission, fourth mission. Get an hour or two of sleep. We're going to do a night mission. And it's like by the time you get done doing all those missions and then you got to do a night mission, you're dead. You're exhausted. It's 2:00 in the morning. You got to go walk another how many miles, but in the dark now,
Right.
with all of the same full battle rattle, and you're tired. You know, our sergeant, our first sergeant and CO at the beginning of my career, again, saw that he changed course. He adjusted. The one at the end, since he wasn't out there with us, he could care less, and he would just be like, yeah, keep pushing. And that's what kind of the issue was.
Now, was that a strategy that he used in order to what? I mean, obviously, you said maybe benefit himself, so his numbers could look better.
Yeah.
But was that a strategy that the military uses, or is that just what you went through at that given time with that commander?
What I've noticed is there are people that know how to lead and people that don't know how to lead.
Right.
And it's pretty evident when you talk to them. And you just knew talking to this guy, he didn't know how to lead.
Right.
He wasn't interested in the well-being of his guys and leading a unit. He was interested in getting the promotion,
Right.
the money, the step up, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's just honestly what it was to a very basic level. I mean, I've met amazing leadership throughout the years, and I've learned so many amazing lessons from them. And then I've met really terrible leadership, and I've learned, don't ever do that. You do that, everyone's just going to leave you behind. They're not going to follow you. We had, like a powwow with this new sergeant and CO after a while, because it wasn't just the lower ranking Joes that were getting fed up with everything. It was also the squad leaders, the platoon sergeants. They were all getting fed up with this. This is ridiculous. Our guys are falling out. We're all getting hurt. This guy doesn't care. He's not here. So they sat down with him and they told him, like, hey, this is not how you do this. Like, when you have your leadership getting fed up too, that's how you know something's wrong.
So what's the consequences of his actions? Because it sounds like nothing. There's no repercussions.
No, there wasn't. The biggest repercussion was after a while, he started losing respect from people in his unit, and we started to not do what was told of us.
Right.
And that's like the biggest thing. Like,
Yeah, that's
sometimes
the worst thing.
Sometimes like, we wouldn't do the mission like we were supposed to on purpose, and we would kind of mess around on purpose.
Right.
Because it was like our way of saying, screw you.
Right. To him.
Yeah.
Right. Now, what do you say to, and I know this sounds crazy, but in a lot of people's eyes, is you signed up for this. Mm-hmm. You know that you can be going through the worst being in the military. What do you say to that?
Honestly, my biggest reason for signing up was, Garfield's not the best town. It's not. Like, right. Everyone knows that. It's not as bad as maybe some parts of Patterson or Passaic, but it's not the best. I saw the military as I get a little bit of a leg up. Right. And I'll take any leg up that I possibly can to get to where I want to be. Right. And I saw the military as a way to do that. Right. I knew I was going to suffer. I knew it was going to suck. But you know what? In the end, suffer now and relax later versus relax now and suffer later.
Right.
So,
a lot of people see, and this is another controversial thing, is a lot of people see it as an easy way out. Right. And to be honest, I was deterred from joining the military because that's what I constantly heard. Yeah. But I did have a lot of, I was patriotic. I wanted to serve. I wanted to do it. But at the same time, I knew that if I go in like that, I can be very well taken advantage of. Right. Yeah. And so I understand that completely. And I think most people do that. You have to make a decision in your life at 18 years old, as young as that is, or 17 years old, to sign up and you can change your life. Hopefully everything goes well. You don't die or lose a limb in the process. But that's the sacrifice we make so our lives can be a little bit easier, hopefully, in one day.
It's funny. I remember that book. There's a book that I love reading called Make Your Bed, and they talk about that in the book. They talk about, one of the chapters is about risk. And sometimes taking great risks leads to great opportunity. But the way he explains it is you have two kinds of risks. You have a risk, just risk. That's like me putting my hand on the stove and knowing that I'm going to get burned. It's like, it's a risk. But then you have a calculated risk. When you think about all angles and you think about what could happen, what could go wrong, and what could go right. And then it's not really as dangerous when you look at it in that perspective. So I saw the military as a calculated risk. I knew if things kind of fell apart, where I'd be. I'd be here, I'd be here, I'd be here. And you start thinking of plans to kind of make sure you stay on track. But no matter what happened, I was still going to be a veteran. I was still going to have some sort of VA money coming towards me. And I'd have a leg up on my resume because it's work experience. I mean, yeah, I could have picked a better career. Like I picked an infantryman. That doesn't really translate to too many things in civilian life. But if you pick a good career in the military and it translates very well, that's 3, 4, 5, 6 years of experience that you now have over the competition and in a very rigorous structure. So.
So in a lot of ways, the military has benefited you in a lot of ways, but it also has been a tough experience. But you think it's worth it?
Goes to calculated risk. I think if you're thinking it through, it's worth it. But if you're using it as an avenue to run away from your problems, it's not. My goal, like I said, I joined the military part-time at first to feel the waters. And then I was going to get my degree. It's not like I was just going to sit around and do nothing. I was going to make sure I had qualification after qualification after qualification so that I can be the boss, so that I can get to where I want to be. And that's why it was a risk worth taking, because I was going to soak up every little inch of whatever they were going to give me, whether they liked it or not. So.
And a lot of people can't say that they had that same mentality going into it.
A lot of people do go in it to run away. They go in it because they think of it as, well, I don't have to go to college. I can take the easier way out, which is great. You can do that especially if you make it like a lifelong career. But again, why not capitalize? That's how some of the greatest people get to where they are right now, is they capitalize on whatever is given to them.
So for most people who didn't have the experience that or the rationale to make the decisions that you made to learn and to grow from the military, are people traumatized from that? Like, who do you see with the most issues coming out of the military?
I had a few friends when I was in that, I'll keep them unnamed, but they didn't make the most out of their time, and you can see it. They joined and they would just go day to day. That's it. They wouldn't plan for the future. They wouldn't plan for the retirement, whether it was after their 4 years, 6 years, whatever. They didn't plan. So when they would leave, it was just like they wasted 6 years and they're back to where they were before they joined. I had a few guys, because that happened, they fall in depression, because it was like, oh man, I'm back in the thick of what I left. But it's like, I have sympathy for you, and that sucks, but you sowed this destiny for yourself. You had the opportunity to do it and to do something great, whatever it might be for you, and you didn't take any advantage of it. Like, why would you do that?
Now, I mean, obviously there's more issues to that than just, people saying or not trying hard enough. Obviously, people go into the military. A lot of people, with socioeconomic issues, mental issues, Like for example, I have this one friend, and no names being said, but he's someone who is a grunt. Yeah. He's someone that his whole family's military, mm-hmm. but himself, he goes through life like this, just battle ready. Mm-hmm. He didn't get out of the military like you, where he it took 6 years. It took a year for him, which is not a good thing, right? But it's just he went into the military looking for a way out, maybe, and it ended up eating him up a little bit. And
it's funny you mentioned that, because it's like, again, going back to that book, and we learn about this at basic training. It's a big thing at basic training. So at basic training, you have multiple drill sergeants that are in charge of you and the people in your platoon, and they'll do something called a shark attack. And a shark attack is when they all gang up on you. It won't just be one drill sergeant. It'll be 3, 4, 5 of them, and they're gonna come over and they're gonna bust your balls, and they're gonna make sure they tear you down.
Right.
And that experience is just such a great analogy for life. Like, there's always gonna be sharks in the water.
Yeah.
And it's up to you to stand your ground and be courageous, because the more courageous you are in that moment when the sharks are circling, the less likely they are to pounce.
Right.
And that's kind of how it is joining the military. The military is 6, 4, whatever years of you getting circled. Mm-hmm. And unless you stand firm during your time, you'll get eaten.
Right.
You will.
And I think the same goes for the real world.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
If you're not doing enough, the world will eat you alive.
Yeah.
It really will. A lot of people learn that the hard way.
Yeah.
But speaking about like the politics in the military, you said that those drill sergeants would do those things. I guess a lot of people learn from it, but a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
And what do you think about like the politics in the military, and how that makes it difficult for people to navigate? Like for yourself, you said you wanted to come back into the military if you were to go back into the military. It would be as an officer.
Yeah.
But how hard is that to navigate through when you have the wrong leadership?
It's difficult. I'm not gonna lie, it is.
Yeah.
It's just like with anything in life. If you don't have the right mentors, the right information, you can't really do much because you don't know much. Right. I will say, on the other side of that coin, you can be proactive and you can look up stuff. You can dig and dig and dig. And if you really want something, you'll keep going until you find that nugget of gold.
Right.
And the one great thing about the military, though, is, yes, there's a lot of politics. There's a ton. It's the military. Of course there's politics. But the military does not discriminate against race, gender, socioeconomic status. You go in, you're the lowest of the low. Yeah. It doesn't matter who you are. You're a private.
Right.
You're going to get beat up on. You're going to take the green weenie for the day, and you're going to have to figure out how to survive. It doesn't matter. I had such a diverse group of people when I was at basic training. Yeah. And I'm not going to lie, when I first showed up, I could see it. Like, everyone was divided.
Right.
Especially because we're sorted in our sleeping arrangements by last name. So Garcia, I had literally 2 or 3 other Garcias in me. And then it was like Garcia, Hernandez, and then like Gallegos, and I was like, oh my god, like this half of the room was just all Spanish people. And then you'd have like all the white people here because they all had similar last names, and then you had black people, Polish people, whatever, because Polish people always have like the P's or the whatever, a bunch of Z's in their name, so they're always like near the end.
Right.
So we were separated in the beginning without even realizing it. Right. But I swear by the end, not even by the end, by like the end of the first week at basic training, we realized like, if we're going to make it through this, we need to come together. This is a group effort.
Right.
So we had everyone messing with everyone. It didn't matter who you were. You know, all the Spanish people would like crack jokes on, you know, the little white section, and
Right.
you know, you have all the African Americans getting all like in, and like it was such an amazing thing to watch because we were white shirts,
Right.
right? That's what we wear every single day, a white shirt, or we wore the little PT shirt that said Army. You know, it's like after a while, your identity wasn't I'm Joe Black or James Smith or whatever. It's I'm a soldier. You're a soldier. You're a soldier. You're a soldier. We're all the same. It doesn't matter. You stopped seeing everything else and you just saw the rank on their chest. And that's not necessarily a bad thing all the time, especially when you have good leadership. That rank can be a blessing because that's who you know to look to for guidance.
Right.
So
That's beautiful. I think we all look for that.
yeah.
It's hard to I bet it's hard to adjust to civilian life when you have that camaraderie.
Yeah, I missed it a lot. I won't lie. When I came back, you look for it. Like I said, you know, yeah, in the military, it's really important that you band together and you have that support group. But I realized as time passed, because one of the beautiful things about the National Guard is I was experiencing military life and civilian life.
Right.
So whatever I learned in the military, I was able to translate over immediately versus having to wait X amount of years to translate it over. So I was seeing in the moment just how important it was to have that group, even in civilian life.
Right.
So yeah, I missed it. I missed it a lot. I missed it often, but I learned I had to find that. Some people from the military continue to stay a part of my support group in the civilian world. I still have people now that are a part of that, you know, my support group, and they're all from the military. Like I have a friend that lives literally all the way out west, but we still talk almost like every single day.
Right.
And he's still, you know, there. So
Were there people that couldn't adjust to that camaraderie, like people who were just, you know, because we all talk about, I guess, the good things about it, but I do know this one kid who I was in Idaho with him, right? He was actually my coworker, but he never experienced what it was like to be in a diverse group. You know, he lived in Idaho, so everyone over there is white.
yeah,
And for him, it was, I don't need to see your name, but you know who it is. It was hard for him to adjust to being in a group where he was the minority.
yeah,
And I guess when you don't see that a lot, you start to become a shell of yourself. Like you're not secure with who you are, and it kind of becomes more difficult for him. So did you experience?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We did. We had a few cases. One or two things happened. You either dropped out because you couldn't handle it, or we'd try to straighten you out. Not my proudest moment, but I remember doing, you know, what are they called? Pillow parties. And you
Oh, this sounds like a movie I know.
Oh yeah, you wake up in the middle of it. So we did socks or extra pillowcases filled with our extra bars of soap. Or we would fill a pillowcase with a bunch of walled up socks.
Right.
And if you whip that hard enough, it hurts.
Right.
So while the kid is sleeping under his sheets, you have a guy grab each side of the sheets and it pins him down to the bed, and everyone takes a swing. And we don't do it for no reason.
Right. Absolutely.
This was 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks down the line, and this kid was still messing up. This kid still didn't want to be a part of everything. So we told him, like, you either get with the program or more of this is going to happen, because we're tired of having to do push-ups and sprinting and squatting for, I literally mean, hours. I think because these individuals messed up often, every morning we woke up to like an hour and a half straight of, it was called front back down go. front was you did push-ups, back was sit-ups, down was you sprawled, and go was jogging in place. So our drill sergeant would have us do that literally for like an hour and a half of just doing that. And he would call it making the walls sweat, because it would get so hot in the room that your perspiration would start to wind up on the walls. And we would do that for breakfast, and we would do that for lunch, and we would do that for dinner. And when they didn't really get with the program, sometimes we'd be, after a certain amount of time in the day, like at a certain point, they're supposed to stop messing with you. But if you mess up, they will. Right. And we'd be all showered, and I'd be like, yes, my day's over. And then here comes the drill sergeant into the door because Mr. Whoever messed up again. So I'm all clean. I'm in my, uniform for sleep, because we literally had a uniform for sleep. And now I got to do push-ups and sit-ups and everything for another hour and a half. And you're not allowed to shower when you're done. It's get in your bed, go to sleep. So now I'm all sweaty. I'm pissed because this is like the 4th time we did this today. And after 4 times of doing it an hour and a half a piece, that adds up. And that's not including the regular PT and whatever else you did during the day. So the kid learns pretty quick. Like, if you keep tripping us up like this, then you're going to get a little extra every single night.
And at what stage does this happen where that person has to get with the program, do you feel like?
First 3 weeks. You don't have time. Like, it's crunch. You better do it from the beginning.
Yeah.
But because he wasn't getting with so you have red, white, and blue phase. Red phase is where you get just demolished by the drill sergeants.
Right.
And then white phase, they kind of, cut back a little bit and you learn. And then blue phase is all learning. But since we had kids that weren't getting with the program, I was basically in red phase the whole basic training.
Wow. That's tough.
Yeah.
And was that because of leadership, or was that just because of what you went through?
It was the people. It was like you said, some people just can't adjust. They've never experienced it their whole entire life, and they can't hack it, and then everyone else around them suffers.
Right. Damn, the military life. So I know that you said something, and obviously we all think about Full Metal Jacket when you talk about that, right? Yeah. But what do you feel like is the misconceptions of the military? Like, you were deployed. Mm-hmm. How was that?
I stared at sand for 12 hours every shift. That's it. There's no such thing really as combat for average Joes. In the Army, we call them cool guys. So the guys that have their stuff squared away, they know their job, they're good at it. Right. Some majority of the time, it's a lot of the special forces or people that have some sort of specialty. So those are the cool guys. Right. They get the cool guy missions. They might see some combat, some action, something. But that is a very, very, very small percentage of the military. Right. Very tiny. So I stared at sand.
And I'm guessing that changed, during the Obama era when it started becoming a lot more covert, and we didn't want these big military expansions, and we just didn't want men in the ground. Yeah. And we had more of a purpose of winning hearts over minds.
Hearts and minds. That was the biggest thing is you're there to win hearts and minds. When we did the training leading up to deployment, and we had to do training exercises where we would walk through the desert, and then we would get to a village, and there'd be like, people there, and we'd have to learn how to socialize properly in that moment. It wasn't just like, we're going to storm this village and take over everything. We walked through, we asked people how they're doing. If they invited us into our house, there was protocol. Like, you walk in, you act polite. If they offer you tea, you take a sip of it, and you act courteous. Right. And that was a big part of the whole hearts and minds push. We weren't there to, shoot them up, bang, bang. It was there to make friends. Right. And
by the time you got deployed, most of that hearts and minds program was already through.
It was in full effect. It was in full swing. I mean, so my campaign was technically a part of Operation Enduring Freedom. a lot of the stuff that you see in movies and all this, that was Desert Storm. Desert Storm was a pretty nasty time. There was a lot of action and hostility and everything over in the Middle East. I mean, there's still some there.
Right.
I was able to feel the tension very much so when I was there. I can't say where we were, but we were over there and we were guarding something, and we would have to drive from our main base to what we were guarding. It was like an hour drive by bus. And when we first got there, it was like what they call a bus.
Right.
Because we tried to blend in. Right. Because we didn't want to be caught. If we drove in Humvees through
what
the
was
city,
it? So was it like a Volkswagen or something?
Nah, it was like this weird bus I've never seen before that was just there in the Middle East.
Wow.
I don't even know what it was because there was no logo or emblem in the front. I just remember you walked in and it looked like a small, really small, single floor version of a double-decker bus.
Right.
You had 2 rows and it was literally shaped like a rectangle and it wasn't very great. The only thing that was fantastic about it was the AC worked because it was hot there all the time. Yeah. But we would go in that to try to hide in plain sight. But we would be wearing our uniforms when we got on the bus. So when we were driving, they would see the uniforms. And after a while, we actually started getting tailed. And people were following us. So we actually had to take off our uniform tops and put a regular civilian shirt to almost look like we were tourists.
But you still had the bulletproof underneath.
We would actually not wear those.
Oh my
it would just be the T-shirts, and we would drive to wherever we were going. We'd have
T-shirts, white tees, or just the green tee?
It was like a civilian T-shirt. So, like, I wore majority of the time, like, concert T-shirts or something to look like I was a civilian.
And how did you feel during that experience? I mean, that must have been we all hear about IEDs and explosions, and, I mean, I guess if it's an hour-long bus drive, you're thinking the whole time, like, fuck this.
Yeah, we worried about it every once in a while, but during that time, I had great leadership. That was at the beginning of my career. Right. And my leadership reassured me, like, everything that's being done is being done to keep you guys safe, so don't worry about it. Yeah. I mean, you can see, it was so terrible, but sometimes you really could feel the hate coming off of some people.
Absolutely.
And
coming off of who?
It's locals. Like, they didn't want us here. Like, why are we here? Why are we in their business? And they could tell we were military because we have our hair cut a certain way. We were clean shaven and we were
diverse.
all in relatively good shape. And it's like, who are you? Like, this doesn't fit the norm because, most people out there, they're either darker complexion and they have a beard, or they're wearing, the white cloak or the black cloak and the head wrap and whatever. That's a common thing over there. So you can feel the tension a little bit in the air, especially when we would go out, like, to the city. So it was a little scary, and the whole idea of an IED was a little scary. When you first get deployed, you have to do some training beforehand, and they go over scenarios of, this is what an IED looks like. This is how they hide them over there. These are some of the signals that they use to let locals know, hey, an IED's here, go another way.
And that's important.
Yeah.
So you're watching the whole time. As soon as you get to town or near it, you're looking around for these.
Yeah, like the biggest thing was if you see a path and there's a stack of rocks.
Right.
That stack of rocks meant, hey, there's an IED here. And most of the time, you can tell if that stack of rocks was what that actually meant. It was because you'd see the main road, and then you'd see, for the weirdest reason, just a little track going like this that we didn't make. It was the locals. They were avoiding the IED that could have possibly been on the road because of the stack of rocks.
Right.
So you get a little worried, but again, I had great leadership at the time, and I knew that they were doing everything in their power to keep us safe. So I really wasn't very worried.
So at that time, I guess it was just, they had enough contact with the locals that they could trust the area that they were in or what they were doing.
Yeah. We worked very closely with the police that were over there as well. And
so the police did work then, because I watched obviously documentaries and things like that the police they felt lost. But I guess over time it just became...
Yeah, so we worked closely with the police on purpose to help them not be lost.
Right.
Because I'm not going to lie, when I went over there and I looked at their police force, I was just like, what is this? Like, the military and the police in America is just way more on par.
Were there little kids in the police?
I didn't see it was a lot of older men. A lot of older men. I didn't see too many very young guys. I'm not sure if it's just because they didn't allow them to work with us.
Right.
But it was a lot of older guys, and you can tell they were a little disorganized.
Right.
But we would help them stay organized. And they worked very closely with us because they wanted to make sure that we stayed safe when we were over there. Because if we're not safe when we're over there, that's obviously going to be like a national crisis. Right. And then more is going to come their way. And they don't want more coming their way. Like, they know...
They're just done.
Yeah. They know that we're a superpower. Like, it's pretty evident when we're over there. That's the reason why they don't attack us head on and they use IEDs.
Right.
So the last thing they want to...
A little bit closer to the mic.
The last thing they want to do is poke the bear.
You can move it up if you need to.
But,
yeah, they don't want to poke the bear.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Why would you?
That's the American way, baby. Yeah.
Pretty much.
But I think we we made things very clear with with the beginning of all of that. And I think my misconception is, and I don't know because I wasn't in your position, but what I see is you see a lot of firefights. You see locals that are Taliban, or people who are kids that are dangerous.
Yeah.
You see a lot of drugs in these fields, and I think where my misconception is, or what I know from the military, is that everything is just war, war, war.
Yeah. There's like an old saying that says, like, in peacetime, it's natural to, get soft.
Right.
So we kind of push this agenda constantly that we're in war, we're in combat, because it kind of keeps everyone just a little more attentive and to try to stay, battle ready.
Right.
But that's the problem. That's what the media pushes. But from what I experienced for 6 years, from what I've heard from a lot of my higher ups and everything, there's not much going on over there.
Right.
I've had higher ups see combat. I have. But that was years ago. And I mean years ago, like early 2000s, years ago. That's when they were seeing that. But it's 2021. Like,
yeah. From
what I have experienced, I've never seen anything.
Right.
But I mean, that's a good thing. Like, yeah, it's cool to see stuff, but I'm gonna be honest, getting shot at sucks.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
even the fake rounds that they would try to train us with, it's not fun.
Right.
I had a training exercise one time, and you shoot with live ammunition to kind of get used to shooting next to another guy with live ammunition.
Right.
And we had a guy almost not do what he was supposed to do, and he almost shot me, because when you move up in a line, you're supposed to stay on line so that you don't accidentally shoot the guy next to you. So he wasn't where he was supposed to be. He was a little bit farther back, and he was drifting too close to me.
Right.
So I'm having this guy shoot, I think it was an M249, which is like the saw that you see in video games.
Right.
And he's putting rounds down, and I'm like, bro, I'm right next to you. Like, you need to get online. In that moment, I turned around and yelled. I was like, what are you doing? Move up. You're going to hit me. Like, what's wrong with you? That's just really what you do in that moment, honestly. And it's scary. Even that little bit. It was training. It was an ally. Me almost getting shot. I was like, oh, my God, I'm going to get shot in the arm. I'm going to lose an arm today. Like, what?
Yeah.
So it's like, I couldn't imagine being in a real firefight, because I don't care who you are. I don't care how tough you are. It's scary, period. End of discussion.
And I guess you could say that's why the military isn't made for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a statistic, and it's like, I think 1% of people in America are in the Army.
Yeah.
And then of that 1%, there's only like 1% that are infantrymen. That's it. So you are the 1%.
And that's what
1%.
I did not want to be, was the infantryman.
Yeah.
But that's what, like, I was recruited by the Marines, and I did my ASVAD, and I did the National Guard, which a close friend of mine, his family is all National Guard and military and Army. But I just didn't want to be the grunt that I knew my friend was, you know. I didn't want to be in that position where, you know, I was too close to someone else where it could just be friendly fire, and it could just, you know, or you're the front line.
Yeah.
You know, that's the scariest thing. So for you to be a pointer, there's a lot of responsibility in that.
Yeah. I didn't expect to do that.
Yeah.
In the Army, there's this weird thing that they do, honestly, where if you have a high PT score, like a physical fitness score,
Right.
they see you as someone that's got their stuff together, so they give you more responsibility.
Yeah.
So a lot of my military career, I had more responsibility than most because I had a maxed out PT score. So again, it's like you reap what you sow. I put myself in that front position. I was there. That was my fault, but you learn a lot. It was eye-opening. Honestly, the biggest thing with the military was I gained a lot of perspective.
Right.
From all the different experiences and everything. It sucked. It was terrible. It was scary at some points, but I mean, if you don't take a lesson from that, then what were you doing your time in?
Yeah. So how's your life now? I mean, obviously your transition to civilian life, you said you were in it before. Obviously, as a National Guard, you have the opportunity to be reserve, right? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, so in the National Guard, you stay home. Like, I don't have to worry about going to a base or something like that. In the National Guard, you can put in for, like, extra time. Like, if they need extra guys for a detail or something, you can just spend almost every week just doing military. Or you can do the time that you need to and then live in your civilian life.
Right. But,
So,
I mean, obviously you want to get as many certifications as you can.
Yeah, so at the beginning, when I had good leadership, I tried to spend as much time as I possibly can doing that. And then I did college. I did 12 credits a semester.
Right.
But as leadership changed, I stepped a little bit away from the Army more, and I stepped more towards the civilian life. Right. So, again, that was the great thing about the National Guard. I had that choice.
Right.
And I like making my decisions, as I said. So, it wasn't too hard to transition. Some things were a little bit challenging. I'm not gonna lie. Like, yeah, I had. This is all my own fault too. Again, you reap what you sow. But I picked an infantryman. Like, what job does that translate to? Right. It translates to police officer. Translates to maybe a firefighter, but I spent my literal job title in the Army was to close with and destroy the enemy. Yeah. If I put that on a resume, people are going to be like, yeah, we don't need you. We're good. Like, how am I going to go to an office setting with that as my job description for the past 6 years?
Well, that's a lot of leadership,
Yeah.
You learn a lot.
Yeah, it is.
If you're mentally cleared, then you can be a leader. And you sound like a leader. You sound like more of a leader than anyone or most people that I know. Because when you go through a lot, you can either come out one of two ways. You can either be crumbled or you can be, the building that you want it to be. And I feel, if you go through the military life the way you did, through all the shit and the bullshit that you had to go through, you came out a better man. And that's the most important thing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said, it's what you make of it. My favorite way of thinking about it is it's like the way you make wine is you crush grapes, you put them in darkness for a really long time and let it sit. And then after a certain amount of time letting it sit, it comes out to be this fine item. Right. And that's just kind of how the military kind of was for me. crushed me.
Yeah.
I was the grapes. It crushed me at points.
Right.
It really did. And I sat in darkness for a little bit, but instead of sitting in that darkness forever, I fought and fought and fought and fought until I was, done, and I turned into a better product. And you're right.
Yeah. So other than that, what about the guy or the commander? What is he called? The commanding officer?
Yeah. So you have he's a captain.
Right.
So a part of every company, you have two guys that sit above the rest. It's your first sergeant and your captain or your commanding officer, your CO.
Yeah.
So.
And he's still sitting in the same place?
No, he hit his numbers. He moved on, and now he's doing I don't even know what. I ran into him at the end of my military career, and it was like now that he wasn't in charge of me and he needed my help for certain things, I just looked at him like, yeah, I'm not helping you. You did this to yourself. I'm not helping you now. So.
Yeah. But he played the game the right way in his mind.
Yeah, in his mind he did, but he made a lot of enemies along the way.
Yeah,
he did.
It's never good.
That'll bite you sooner or later. That'll bite you.
Yeah, and what do you feel like his objective was at the end of the day? Does he want to get into politics, you think, or like what is that? Is it just money?
I think he just wanted the rank and power. Not to get too psychological here, but just looking at him, you knew he was the kind of kid that was picked on a lot as a kid, and he never had that power.
Yeah.
Joining the military, he had that power.
Right.
And when he got more and more and more, it was like it inflated his ego. It fed it. So you could see he hit his numbers, you go up a rank. You hit your numbers, you go up a rank. And he wanted those ranks.
Yeah. So. That's so upsetting.
Yeah.
Because there's two different like personalities, right? There's the people who do things physically, and those people, they're easy to deal with, but it's the people who lurk behind closed doors that they know how to puppeteer.
Yes.
And
manipulative.
Yeah, and that's a really hard thing to do, and I feel like that's what happens with politics all over the place.
Yeah.
I was just talking to someone who's in education, and she's talking about the whole coronavirus thing and how it's just power playing. So I completely understand that. How much time we're at? Soon? Okay. So I also wanted to talk about your CrossFit journey. I know that you live a really athletic life. Obviously, you got the highest score on your PT.
Yeah. So
that's good. But where do you plan on going from here on out? Not just with CrossFit, but with your life as well.
I started CrossFit on deployment, and it was because CrossFit's expensive. Unfortunately, it is. The memberships are expensive. So when I was on deployment and they had a full CrossFit gym for me to use and I didn't have to pay for it, I was like, I'm there. Like, I'm taking advantage of that. So I fell in love. I fell in love with the intensity and everything. I followed it for as long as I could over these past few years. I did competitions. I tried to get sponsored. I tried to compete at a high level. And I did, in a sense. I just didn't hit my goals the way I wanted to.
Right.
But, you got to grow up. And I got to be able to support myself. But I wanted to use my fitness in a way to help others. At first, I thought I can use my fitness through teaching. I got my degree in physical education because I truly love physical education, and I believe there is so much that people still don't know. That they should know. And I was going to do that in the school systems, but when I would talk to my professors and other teachers and superintendents and principals about the way that I wanted to teach it, they looked at me like I had 5 heads. They were like, it's dangerous. You're going to hurt kids. You don't know what you're talking about. So I saw all of the pushback I was getting, and I could have fought that pushback, and I could have made it a lifelong goal. But I knew, especially with the state of the world today, that there was no pushing that back.
Right.
I mean, they're trying to get rid of PE as a whole right now.
The whole educational system right now is just I don't understand because, if I get into politics, it'll crush me right now. But Benjamin Franklin, we all know that he instilled these 3 things. Like he started the fire department, the schools. You know, we all know that our founding fathers knew that education is the most important thing, because educated society is the best society, and that's what America used to pride itself in. And I don't know what's going on with our, you know, educational system.
That's a big one.
I don't know what's going on with the coronavirus and how they're not talking about nutrition, and they're talking about everything else, money, you know.
That's like a whole other hour and a half, multiple hours of conversation.
But I understand where you're coming from, and I think that with what you're doing, and you just keep getting your message out. To be honest, the reason why you're here today is because you motivated me when I was going through a hard time. And, you know, just seeing your journey and how you came out of the military, and seeing how you were, you know, doing these CrossFit competitions, honestly, that helped me get out of a bad place. And I looked at Jack's, you know, profile, and I was like, damn, I got to get like Jack, because Jack is jacked, you know? And so, believe it or not, you're inspiring people in all different ways, you know, without even noticing. And I think that you're an exceptional man. A lot of people would love to hear you talk more. And, you know, I love what you said. I love your message. And I know that you're going to keep growing. So I hope that your next journey goes 100 times better than your military journey. And it sounds that, you know, even from your military journey, that you came out of it way better than when you came into it. So
it's funny that you mentioned that with the profile. I hate putting myself out there.
I know.
I hate it so much.
I know.
I've been shy since I was a kid. I think everyone knows that. That knows me. And I started doing that because I had people in the military and I had people in my civilian life where they would watch me work out and they'd be like, wow. And they'd want to do more. And it was like, it was something I learned in the military, but I didn't realize it till recently. And it's like, when we were in the thick of it in the Army, the best thing to do to get everyone's morals up was to sing or say one of our corny phrases. Like, when things started to hurt, especially when we were doing a lot of push-ups, you'd continue to push hard, and the drill sergeant would be like, can you keep going? How is this? And you would just yell at the top of your lungs, too easy, drill sergeant. And he'd make you do more, and you'd be like, too easy, drill sergeant, and he'd make you do more. And when people saw that, like, you're not backing down. You're going to keep going because the sharks are circling, and you got your courage on. It motivates everyone else around you. So I started to realize, like, putting up these posts on Instagram, as much as I hate putting myself out there, in even the littlest way, it motivated other people without me realizing it to be like, oh, he's pushing, so I can do that too. And that's a good thing. That's a great thing. Like, some people just need that little bit of extra to go, and sometimes it makes a big difference. I have people in my life that do that for me. You know, so everyone has that. Everyone needs that, you know. Absolutely.
Well, thank you for your time, Jack. I appreciate it. Thank you for your service, and it was a great conversation.